Hello, this is the August 24th, 2021 meeting of the Town of Northborough, Massachusetts Water and Sewer Commission. My name is John Meter, I'm chair. This open meeting of the Water and Sewer Commission is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of June 16th, 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Water and Sewer Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. This order allows the Water and Sewer Commission to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. At this point, I will ask members of the commission, when I call your name, to please respond in the affirmative. Bryant Furman.
Here.
David Pepe, unfortunately, is going to be absent for this meeting. And John Meter is present. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Scott Charpentier, Department of Public Works Director.
Present.
Tim Davison, Water and Sewer Supervisor.
Present.
Okay, at this point, I'll go through some of the ground rules for the meeting. I would ask for the presenters and or applicants listed on the agenda that the chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their topic. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly in such a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding, please wait until the floor has been yielded by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourselves. And each vote taken by the board or commission tonight will be conducted by roll call. So our first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of July 27th, 2021 regular meeting. At this point, I'm going to defer action on that and move into our scheduled 5:30 public hearing to consider a water and sewer rate adjustment. And if you can bear with me, I have some more language to read prior to opening the public hearing. Pursuant to the regulations for users of the Northborough Water Supply and Distribution System, Section C, subsection 6, the Northborough Water and Sewer Commission will conduct a public hearing to consider a water and sewer rate adjustment. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16th, 2021, this meeting is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. Information as to how to participate in the public comment portion of this meeting was previously provided in the posted public hearing notice and legal ad. At this point, there is some additional language that I'll read when we have an opportunity to open it up for public comments. Typically, the way I've conducted these public hearings in the past is we'll have a presentation by staff and consultant on the rate study, which results in the conclusions of recommendations. And at that point, we'll open it up for comments, questions from the commission members. Then I'll open it up for any questions, comments from the public. And I anticipate we'll close the public hearing and we'll take a vote immediately thereafter on the rates. So at this point, I'll pass it over to Scott Charpentier, Public Works Director, for the rate study presentation and recommendations. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have with me Dave Fox from Raftellus Financial tonight. I'll go over briefly the kind of the 10,000 foot view of our rate process, and Dave will get a little more into the depth of the findings. So for those in the viewing audience who aren't familiar with our operations, the water and sewer are each operated as independent enterprise funds, which are essentially a standalone financial entity. So every component of the water division is funded 100% by the ratepayers. The same goes for the sewer division. That includes operating expenses, capital improvements, unexpected expenses, repairs, and equipment purchases and the like. So I'm going to start with the easiest one, which also happens to be the most complicated one first, the sewer enterprise fund. All of our sanitary sewer discharges to the Marlboro wastewater treatment plant. We're currently operating without an intermunicipal agreement, which is actually in litigation right now in Worcester. We're awaiting a decision by the court on how to proceed forward in a municipal agreement, an IMA. With that in mind, and that having been ongoing for many years, we've implemented several rate increases. Actually, in the past decade, we've doubled the rates, slightly more than double the rates on the sewer side in anticipation of paying our fair portion of some debt to a large capital improvement project that the city underwent at their treatment plant, as well as paying up our operating expenses throughout that duration. So because of the uncertainty associated with the IMA and the rate increases that have been applied over the past decade, our findings this year are to hold the sewer rates steady with 0% increase, in hopes that in this coming fiscal year, we have some resolution to the intermunicipal agreement and can move forward in a more stable and projected fashion. That's the complicated one. The easier one is the water. So on the water side, we had an interesting past year. As everybody's aware, there was quite a few changes in our lifestyles due to the COVID-19 pandemic in the past year. That had some substantial impacts to the water enterprise fund. The water department purchases all of our drinking water from the MWRA. The MWRA operates in a similar fashion as we do, as an enterprise fund. When the pandemic hit and the larger commercial-based communities, such as Boston and those surrounding cities and towns, essentially shut down during the pandemic, and everybody stayed home and worked, the more bedroom communities, such as Northborough, our usage went up. So Boston and the larger communities, their usage went substantially down, and ours went up. The operating expenses by the authority are shared amongst users based on a percentage of how much water we use. So that assessment is applied to each community at the end of the applicable fiscal year. So what happened with our FY22 MWRA assessment, which normally goes up in the 4 to 8% per year range, which is typical for water rates, went up 24% in FY22 because our use percentage, as compared to other communities under the authority, was substantially higher. To put it in perspective, a little more than half of our operating expense is our MWRA assessment. So when more than half of your operating expense goes up 24%, that's a substantial impact. We are a relatively conservative utility, as is the town of Northborough. We have sound financial practices, as the commission knows, and the taxpayers at the annual town meeting in May approved allocating slightly over $300,000 out of our reserve fund to help ease the burden of that substantial MWRA increase, so that our projected rate increase this year can be more stable as we've seen in past years. So not to take Dave's thunder away, we're proposing a 5% rate increase on the volumetric for water and a $1 increase on the base charge. The base charge is a stable revenue source, and we try to maintain a ratio of base charge to volumetric, where the volumetric is very variable. It's important to understand that as a water enterprise fund, we're required to promote water conservation. The plumbing codes mandate low flow fixtures. We promote conservation of water, which means we're in the sales business for water, and we are trying to convince our customers to buy less. So it's a struggle when it comes to an operating budget, to convince your customers to use less water and try to maintain an operating budget going forward. So again, there were some anomalies this past year that were unforeseen for sure, but we've done what we can to stabilize the rates. I'll let Dave get a little more into how that compares to the industry and where we stand, generally speaking. So Dave, if you want to take on.
Thanks, Scott. Now that my thunder's gone, I'll go back to maybe the beginning of the storm a little bit and just talk about the kind of process we go through so everybody understands that, and then I'll provide some anecdotes around the general recommendations.
Dave, pardon me, if you could just briefly, if you could just give yourself an introduction.
Sure.
Thanks.
My name is Dave Fox. I work with Raftellus. I'm a senior manager here. I've been with the company for over a decade, and I run our New England operations based out of our office in Natick, Mass. I'm currently in my home, just over the town in Shrewsbury. I've been working with Northborough for the last 5 years or so in some capacity, working with your rate studies on an annual basis. It's not the first time that I've been talking to you all. So what the process that we typically go through, and I'll talk about why that's a good thing in just a few minutes, a good thing that you actually do annual rate studies. The process that we go through on an annual basis is for both the water and the sewer funds. We outline 5 to 6 year, very detailed financial plans where we're looking at all of your operating expenses for both funds, your existing debt service for those funds, your current revenues under existing rates. We're also looking at your capital improvements plan. So a 6-year capital improvement plan, looking at the timing of projects, the magnitude of those projects, how much they're costing, how do we think we're going to pay for those projects, and how is that going to turn into cash needs on an annual basis. And then at the end of the day, coming down and looking at how much additional revenue is necessary to support those revenue requirements, support operating expenses, debt service, both debt service you already have on the books and new debt service potentially to pay for the capital improvements plan, pay for any of the capital improvements plan that you're paying out of cash. So what are the cash needs of both the water and the sewer funds? But we're also looking at things like reserve fund balances. Everybody should have a savings account. General fund should have a savings account. Enterprise funds are no different. Water and sewer fund should have a savings account as well. And there's a little bit of a balancing act there of how much should be in those retained earnings on an annual basis. But what is agreed upon is that there should be some monies in those accounts. And what we're going through right now of dealing with like Scott alluded to, or actually said in great detail, is a 24 or 25% increase in your assessment from MWRA, which accounts for about a half of your total water operating budget. In the reason that we're not talking about a 12% increase in rates to be able to sustain that, and we're only talking about a 5% on the volumetric and a $1 increase on the fixed charge, is because you've maintained sound financial practices by keeping funds in those retained earnings, that rainy day fund. This is one of the reasons that we do want you to have some money in those reserve funds. things like unintended revenue requirements or unintended increase in costs, like the MWRA assessment of 24% increasing. If there's capital improvements projects that we're not planning for, if there's sharp reductions in consumption, all these things could potentially impact the revenue stream of the utility or the bottom line of the utility. And by maintaining some cash reserves, it mitigates those risks. And we're seeing that exact thing going on right now. I think it's one thing I'll also point out is this commission and this town does a great job of not only looking at the upcoming fiscal year, although we are just recommending rates for fiscal year 2022, we're taking into consideration what's going to happen in 2023 and beyond with the best information we have today, planning for it. And we're really trying to do that so we're mitigating impacts on customers. We don't want to see sharp fluctuations in year to year. Customers seeing very high bills or much higher bills one year and then lower bill increases the year after, then higher. As to the best of our ability, we want to smooth that out. And the way that we do that is we're planning for the future with the best information we have today. So like Scott mentioned, because of the uncertainty around the sewer fund, we are recommending no change to the rates for fiscal year 2022. And on the water side, we're recommending a 5% increase on the volumetric rates, which are contingent upon the amount of water consumption customers use, and a $1 increase for typical single family residential home of their fixed charge per quarter. So it's going up from $15 to $16. To put that into a little bit more context for you, the typical residential customer in Northborough will see their quarterly water and sewer bill combined increase by about $5.65, which is less than 2% increase. And it amounts to about a 6-cent increase per day for both water and sewer. To provide a little bit of context around that, we're talking about a 5% increase on water just this 1 year, which is higher than we were really expecting given the increase in MWRA. But that is right in line with what we've seen nationally with increases in rates for the last 10, 15 years or so. We've seen annual year-over-year increases of about 5% for water and about 6% for sewer. And so, the fact that we're looking at 5% for water and in a very anomalous year, we had the reserve funds to be able to offset that and not be looking at a 12, 13% increase. And the fact that we're only looking at 5% on water, and really for that combined customer, that typical residential customer looking at only about a 2% increase or less than a 2% increase is pretty incredible. And I certainly applaud the staff and the commission for having the foresight to do this on an annual basis, think about things, think about what's coming down the pike, maintain financial viability and health in both the water and the sewer funds, such that when something happens like this, you're not looking at a significant increase. This is why you maintain that financial health, and your customers should be thanking you for that right now. I know of some other communities I work with that aren't looking at their rates as comprehensively as you do on an annual basis, and they're in a world of hurt right now and looking at some significant increases. So with that being said, I'll pause there. If there's any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Dave. That was a great detailed explanation of our rate study process. And just so the commission's aware, the relationship that Northborough has with Raftellus doesn't start at the rate study and end at the adoption or hearing. We coordinate throughout the year. When operating budgets are developed in February, Dave and I are working together. When capital budgets are developed in October, we're working together, and in advance of town meeting, we're working together, and then at the end of the fiscal year. So it's an ongoing process to balance the books of two small businesses where you can't lose money and you don't want to make too much. So it's a wonderful working relationship that we have, and I thank Raftellus for being there for Northborough.
Well said. Thanks, Scott.
Okay, at this point, I'll open it up for any questions, comments from commission members. Our only other commission member present today is Bryant Furman. Bryant, do you have any comments, questions?
No, that was a good summary, and we've been through that report already, so there were not too many questions that I have, or any questions that I have. It was a good job.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'll second that. We had a presentation at our meeting prior to this. Just a couple of points of clarification. You've referenced the $1 fee. That's for residential. You might mention there is also adjustments on the commercial and industrial side.
Great point, Chairman. Thank you for that. Yes, so residential fixed charges on a quarterly basis are going to be increasing by $1 from $15 to $16. Commercial customers, their increase will be $3 for their fixed charge, going up from $45 to $48. And industrial will be a $5 increase, going from $68 to $73. All right at around that 7% increase on the fixed charge. And the reason we're doing that is to promote revenue stability for the funds. So as consumption, having a predominantly volumetric revenue stream, if we get into a period of time, we didn't hit that during COVID, but as things kind of normalize, and if we, like we had very rainy July, if we get into a normal season where folks are getting back to work and we have a very cool, wet spring and summer, consumption declines because of that. And your volumetric revenue stream will take a hit. And the more revenue we have coming from those fixed charges, the more stable and predictable of a revenue stream we have, the less risk that we take on by having fluctuations in our consumption and subsequently fluctuations in our volumetric revenue stream. And so that's why we're trying to every once in a while increase those fixed charges as well as the volumetric charges.
Okay, thanks for that explanation.
Sure.
Okay, at this point, this is a public hearing, so I will provide some information as to how the public can provide comment. At this point, if you would like to make comment by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the chair. Please note that part of your phone number will be visible to those viewing the meeting. By Zoom, click the raise hand icon on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized by the chair. And the chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses. And once the chair has a list of the various commentators, I'll call you by name and allow 3 minutes for your comments. Typically in the past, we have not had members of the public present. And I'll just chime in partly because of the good, excellent upfront work that Scott Charpentier and Dave have done, presenting information to the Board of Selectmen, and by that process over the cable network on the television to the people in Northborough. So I don't see any public who want to be participating. So at this point, I will take a motion by roll call to adopt. Actually, let me preface that. At this point, I will take a vote by roll call to close the public hearing of the Northborough Water and Sewer Commission. Commissioner Furman, you can unmute, Brian.
I did, but then I got a screen that said I had to unmute again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yay. That means yes, not right on.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Pepe, unfortunately, is absent. Commissioner Meter votes aye. Now, this will be a motion by roll call to adopt the water and sewer rates as presented to the commission tonight at the public hearing. Commissioner Furman?
Yay.
Commissioner Pepe, absent. Commissioner Meter is an aye. So at this point, I think, Dave, I want to thank you again for your time and efforts.
Of course, I'm always happy to help. Thank you for your time and efforts and your feedback and input. And I do appreciate it. It's always a pleasure working with you all.
Thank you, Dave.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've deferred the first agenda item. I'll continue to do that. Our item that's after the public hearing is water and sewer bill adjustment for 30 Samuel Gamwell, account number 3314. And for some additional background, I'll hand it over to Scott Charpentier, Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packets, you have a memorandum outlining the sewer abatement request. This is not an uncommon one this time of year, where residents who own swimming pools had suffered an unexpected and/or catastrophic pool liner failure and required to refill their pools due to an exceptional and unexpected case. We did receive correspondence from the property owner regarding the concern and issue, as well as the invoice from the pool liner repair company, clearly identifying that the work was done. In the memorandum, it indicates that there was, this was tracked through our Beacon software, where we can monitor usage, that they utilized 18,752 gallons of water to refill their pool. So the sewer only portion of that bill would be $300.84 to abate. And that was calculated and contemplated in accordance with the regulations.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments from commission members?
None, pretty self-explanatory. Thank you.
Okay, so this will be a motion by roll call to approve the sewer abatement for 30 Samuel Gamwell, account number 3314, in the amount of $300.84 as an exceptional case due to catastrophic damage during the 2020-2021 winter season. Commissioner Furman,
Yay.
Commissioner Pepe absent, Commissioner Meter is an aye. Our next item is sewer betterment order for 185, 187 Hudson Street. And again, I'll hand it over to Scott Charpentier, Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a new construction duplex. They have 2 units. We've calculated out the sewer betterment cost in accordance with the regulation, indicating $9,100 for the first unit and 50% or $4,550 for the second unit. It's a $13,650 sewer betterment. The owners have completed the documentation associated with the request to apportion it on their taxes for a 20-year term at 5% interest. After the action by the commission, the sewer betterment will be appropriately recorded at the Registry of Deeds and given to the collector's office for further action. I'm sorry, the assessor's office.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments from commission members? Hearing none, this will be a motion by roll call to electronically execute the sewer betterment order for 185, 187 Hudson Street. Commissioner Furman,
Yay.
Commissioner Pepe absent, Commissioner Meter, aye. Okay, so now we're back to our first agenda item, which is approval of the minutes of the July 27th, 2021 regular meeting. I do have a couple of comments. Bryant, I don't know if you have any comments, questions, changes.
No, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully very quick. On the second page, the second paragraph, the very first sentence is a little confusing. Is that what Raftellus is not recommending? So they are recommending something, so I'm not sure how that first sentence should read, Scott.
Okay, I'm,
Originally, I was just gonna say strike what? That Ref Telus is not recommending an across-the-board increase, but they are, so it's kind of a mixed.
I can add clarification to that regarding the specifics of the recommendation as opposed to a blanket statement like that, which would be helpful, I believe.
Or you can just, the easiest thing, I don't think there's any damage if you just delete that first sentence.
Okay, that I can do.
I think that works.
Okay,
And then on the last page at the very top, on the water sewer garage, there's a little typo. It's ends progressing.
oh, yep, I see that, yep.
The second paragraph, I'm suggesting perhaps instead of has been approved, to substitute contracted.
Okay,
Then the next paragraph suggests maybe inserting water meter before cell network.
Yep.
And then going to force Tim to have to answer on this one, on your leak detection, whether you want to add some more info on what Prowler is. I'm not familiar with them. Or is that a business? Is that?
Yes. Yep, they're a contractor that does leak detection throughout the state.
I'll add that Prowler is a leak detection contractor.
Yeah, and again, maybe I don't want to become a big editor here. Maybe you want to reference where these firms are located, what are concurrent, where they're located, or what office you're working out of. Same thing kind of with Weston and Sampson, even though you don't reference them in the damn work. But
Yep. Okay.
Again, these are all just for outside readers.
Okay,
That's all I had on those.
that's a can do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let me find my script here. I could probably go off of it. Okay, this will be a motion by roll call to approve the minutes of the July 27th, 2021 regular meeting as amended. Commissioner Furman,
Aye.
Commissioner Pepe absent, Commissioner Meter, aye. So our next item is any further business that we can legally discuss? Scott?
At this point, there's really no updates from our prior meeting during this time of the year. We meet more frequently than at other times, so there really has not been much there really isn't anything to report from the last meeting to tonight's, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Do we want to set our next meeting at this point?
I think that would be fantastic.
Okay, I guess our regularly scheduled meeting is, our next scheduled meeting would be September 21st, Tuesday.
Considering that is my 20th wedding anniversary, I'd like to possibly defer for a week or a day. Maybe we could do the 28th instead, if that's okay.
You haven't made it yet. Anything can happen between now and the 21st.
I have a feeling my wife will text me the same thing.
Come on, we're a real fun bunch of guys. Come on, you take us with you. Yeah, we'll. Do you want to set it right now, or do you
Yeah,
want?
let's set it for the 28th at 5:30, and we'll see if anything comes up between now and then.
Okay, and that would be an in-person meeting.
Let's determine that as the Delta variant and the governor makes progress, as well as the town policies.
Okay, so
5:30.
right now it'll be the 28th at 5:30 p.m. either Zoom or in person to be
Right.
determined.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Will this be a motion by roll call to adjourn the meeting of the Water and Sewer Commission? Commissioner Furman,
Aye.
Commissioner Pepe absent, Commissioner Meter is an aye. So again, thank you all for your time and efforts. And we'll